Hello, my name is Joel Neville Anderson,
I'm Aiko Masabuchi.
I'm Kazu Watanabe.
and we're the programmers behind Japan Cuts Festival of New Japanese Film. We're here in Japan Society's auditorium, where very soon this month we'll be hosting the 10th anniversary edition from July 14th to 24th. So we're here to help guide you through the lineup, direct you towards titles that you may have missed and that you would definitely enjoy. We recently opened ticket sales, and our opening night film, Mohican Comes Home, has already sold out, so we do encourage you to jump on these quickly. We're happy to tell you a little bit about the films. So one of the programming sections that's been expanded this year is the documentary focus. This year presents 4 great artist portraits, which includes Tatsuya Mori's Fake, a really fantastic documentary. This is a profile film on the famed composer Mamoru Samuragochi, often dubbed as Japan's Beethoven for the digital age. He was the center of a firestorm controversy when a part-time university music teacher stated that he'd been acting as the man's ghostwriter for his compositions over the course of 18 years. We're going to have director Tatsuya Mori here for the introduction and Q&A for the film, which will be moderated by New York's own Kazuhiro Soda, another master documentarian. In addition, we have the first film by the punk Japanese band The Stalin frontman Michiro Endo, who's created a really fantastic self-portrait which profiles his own national tour throughout Japan, which was interrupted by the 2011 earthquake, tsunami, and nuclear catastrophe in northern Japan. We also have an artist profile of the famed artist Rei Naito by the documentarian Yuko Nakamura, which shows a fascinating example of how cinema can interrogate artworks. This is an artist portrait that is produced mainly without the cooperation of the artist herself. So the filmmaker Nakamura profiles a number of different women's own engagement with Naito's art. Finally, the 4th film in the documentary focus is The Shion Sono, a portrait of the provocative director Shion Sono, who was in attendance at the very first edition of Japan Cuts in 2007. The film gives a glimpse into the working methods and personal life of Shion Sono, and was directed by Arata Oshima, Nagisa Oshima's son. For this year's experimental spotlight section of Japan Cuts, we're focusing on experimental animation. This program is very much not for children and includes many raunchy shorts, as well as more experimental, epic narratives. So we're very happy to greet filmmaker Onohana, who's presenting 3 works in this program of films by many different filmmakers. I think that the program, all of which is a New York premiere, just like the rest of the festival, will introduce local New York audiences to entirely new practices in animation from Japan, as well as experimental media more generally.
In making our selections for the feature slate, we noticed we had a large number of significant filmmakers who have made groundbreaking works from the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. So we started with Yosuke Hashiguchi, who is a largely influential director in Japan. All of his films are great, but for our classic selection, we decided to go with Hashiguchi's 2001 film, Hush, which was selected for the Cannes Film Festival that year. So here Hashiguchi returns to his ongoing theme of individuals struggling to be themselves, in contrast with social pressures, social norms, and expectations. From here, we can flash forward to Hashiguchi's latest film, which is 3 Stories of Love, which swept the Kinema Junpo Awards for Best Japanese Film, Best Director, Best Screenwriter, and Best New Actor for Atsushi Shinohara. We have a bridge inspector whose wife was murdered in a random attack. We have a emotionally unfulfilled housewife, and we have a successful but emotionally empty and cruel lawyer. Hashiguchi is able to seamlessly and masterfully weave their narratives together to ultimately reach a very human truth about love, loneliness, and loss. The next filmmaker we focus on in our classic section is Junji Sakamoto, who made a number of hits, most significantly Face, or Kao, in 2000. The film focuses on a middle-aged oddball named Masako, who lives a very lonely life as a seamstress, and without giving too much away, finds herself in the position of having to run from the law. So we're given this darkly comic premise in which we have what we think is a sociopathic killer, but who we quickly become endeared to as she takes this journey of self-discovery, and in that process finds out her own will to live. And from here we can flash forward to The Projects, which is among the funniest films in our lineup. We have the return of actress Naomi Fujiyama, who is the main character of Face. This is the first time in 15 years Fujiyama and director Sakamoto are working together, and the results are just as fantastic. Like Face, The Projects starts somewhere and takes you somewhere you don't quite expect. Here we have a premise of a retired couple moving into a new housing community, but which takes an unexpected and delightful turn into much stranger sci-fi territory. Lastly, we have Burst City from 1982 by director Sogo Ishii, who now goes by the name Gakuryu Ishii. Here we have a completely new aesthetic that kind of borrows from the Mad Max dystopian futuristic look of biker gangs and scrap metal, filmed in the spirit of the punk movement in early 1980s Japan. So you'll see a lot of actual Japanese punk bands. And from Burst City, we can flash forward to Bitter Honey, which is Gakuryu Ishii's latest film. Unlike Ishii's early work, such as Burst City, we no longer have a punk, snarling aesthetic, but instead find him taking on more literary material. Here adapting a very sensual and surreal novel about a shape-shifting goldfish, played by Fumi Nikaido. And though this is somewhat new territory for Ishii, we can still strongly feel his presence as director through the imaginative visuals, editing, and overall tone, which remains playful and slightly off-center.
So quite appropriately for our 10th anniversary this year, we found films about filmmaking, one of them being Low Life Love. It's directed by director Eiji Uchida. So we showed his previous film, Grateful Dead, 2 years ago at Japan Cuts. And this year with Low Life Love, his new film, he himself is actually coming to introduce and also participate in a Q&A afterwards. And along with director Eiji Uchida, we have producer Adam Terrell, who will be here with him, as well as actor Denden. And Denden has been in the Japanese film industry and the entertainment industry for a really long time. So I think after watching the movie, we'll all have a lot of questions. So diverging a little bit from films about filmmaking, we're also showing a film which is our one world premiere this year, called Emi Abi by director Kensaku Watanabe, who is going to be here for the festival for an intro and Q&A. You may recognize his name because he's also an actor as well as a screenwriter, a very celebrated one at that. This unusual title, Emi Abi, is the name of a stand-up comedy duo or a manzai duo that the movie centers around. And we follow these characters who are committed to life in entertainment and the tragedies as well as the comedy that comes along with it. Our closing night title, The Actor, centers around an actor named Takuji Kameoka, who has made a career out of masterful performances in film, and he would be a household name if only his filmography wasn't just full of bit parts. And the film is also directed by director Satoko Yokohama, who is a female director, and we're very, very happy to have her come for an introduction Q&A. And speaking of Satoko Yokohama, this brings up the fact that we have many female filmmakers from Japan that are represented in this year's slate. Satoko Yokohama being one, and the other director we have coming is Mippo Oh, who is the director of Being Good. As one of the programmers for Japan Cuts, I've been watching a lot of Japanese cinema that's been coming out of Japan, and it's been very exciting to see so many talented female filmmakers coming out. Last year we had Yuki Tanada, and this year we have these two wonderful filmmakers coming to introduce their movies.